Today, we're going over the high competitive nature of the law enforcement hiring process and how to stand out with these limited available positions that you're applying to. Let's discuss. Hey, before we get started, we have two gifts in the description for you. One is the Getting Started workshop. It's going to walk you through every phase of the hiring process. There's some hidden bonuses in there that you're really going to enjoy, and it's going to give you that inside knowledge that you need to be successful. Additionally, if you have something specific to you and you want to go over it in a coaching call, we have a free coaching call for you. We have extended hours down below. Jump in, love to sit down and talk with you. Do everything I can to get you on the right path and get you hired as soon as possible. Now, when applying to become a police officer, there's a lot of competition. Most people say, "Oh, there's not as many people applying," and that is true. Let me be clear about that. Now is the best time to try to apply to be a police officer because there's not as much competition, but there's still plenty of competition. A lot of people still want to become police officers, but just like many other controversial or political issues these days, they're just not discussing it, right? People just aren't out there saying, "Hey, I'm looking at pursuing a a career in criminal justice or in law enforcement." So they keep it more reserved. And while I have my issues with that, and I think you should be proud of what you're going after because law enforcement is a noble profession, at times I understand it because a lot of times people just don't want to get into a debate or an argument about something that they're passionate about. Now, when you're applying, there's still plenty of people applying. And if there wasn't, every college would get rid of a criminal justice program in every single university or every community college out there. There's plenty of them out there. The reason that cops are short staffed right now is because of academies. They could have 200 open billets, right, for a police department, but they can only staff the academy with up to, say, 50 people. And that's at the absolute max. That's at the absolute max. Usually what I see is somewhere between 20 to 35 people in an academy at any given time. And that's, like I said, that's pretty traditional. So 50 at the max, if you're short 200 candidates, right, or 200 police officers, it takes 6 months for them to go through the academy and then get into FTO and then go through FTO. Well, by the time they're fully on and they're done their first year, guess what? You've gotten 50 on, but out of those 50 that have come on, 20 have retired or 20 have moved location, or maybe 50 have transferred to a different department that year. It just depends on how big the department is and what's going on with that department. So keep in mind, it's not about people not applying. Yes, if once upon a time we might have 1,000 applicants for 10 positions. Well, guess what? Instead of 1,000 applicants now, we have 500, and that's still 500 applicants for 10 positions. Right, keep that in mind. Now, if I have to fill 200 vacancies and I have, 1,000 or 2,000 applicants, I still have to dwindle those applicants down to say, let's say I have 200 vacancies. Well, I'm not dwindling it down to 1,000 so I can fill those 200. No, that hiring cycle is only going to be filled with 20 to 35 people, if that, or 50 at the absolute max, depending if this is a really big academy and everything along those lines. So let's just say out of the 2,000 people that apply for 200 positions, right, or open positions, I'm only filling an academy class of up to 50. So now I got to take 2,000 people down to 50. And that's where you get those non-select letters all the time from police as a police applicant from police departments. There we go. They say, "Hey, reapply next year, please reapply to the next hiring cycle." Just because we didn't pick you up just means that you, out of the class that we've had, weren't the most qualified in this hiring pool. It doesn't mean we won't hire you later on. Now, I'm a big proponent of not applying to departments over and over again, just because if they told you no one time, then they didn't see the value in you that first time. And to ask them to reconsider is kind of starting your foot behind the line, so to say. But that's not what this particular video is about. So it's highly competitive. Now, there's a lot of things you can do to stand out really well. I mean, obviously, if you stand out academically and you don't do well on the test, that's great. But then if you stand out physically, right? If you do really well in your physical fitness, that makes you stand out even better. But both of those are just precursors to get you, say, to a board interview if your department has a board interview. And the board interview is the real first time you get to sell yourself, where you get to articulate yourself. And if you've seen me in any of my other videos, you understand the importance and how much I emphasize articulation, because it's a skill that you will use not only through your hiring process, but every aspect of your life, and more specifically, every aspect of your law enforcement career. It is highly, highly coveted skill that just needs to happen. And if you can do it in the hiring process, it makes your hiring process so much faster and smoother. But if you're going through, you get to that board interview. Now you're sitting here, you're sitting in front of them, and they say, "Hey, tell me about yourself. Tell me why you want to become a police officer." And you're fumbling through this basic answer that really is your answer. No one else can give your answer. It's not going to look good for you. You're running into that situation where you have the opportunity, you're finally in front of people where you can present yourself in the best possible light, and you fumble the football or you drop the pass, or whatever analogy you want to use here, you trip off the starting line. That's not how you really want to start it. And then that makes it even more difficult moving forward, because say if by some chance they pass you, right? Say they pass you on your board, but they're going to have a mark next to your name, and that mark is going to tell the background investigator where you're ranking. Are you among the top rank? Are you not among the top rank? And then that's going to determine where the background investigator puts you in their lineup. Maybe they're going to hire 30 officers, right? Maybe they're going to bring on 30 officers for the academy. Well, that means that they're going to probably pass roughly, let's say, 50 applicants from the board interview, right? They're going to hire 30, so they're going to pass 50, and they're going to expect that 20 or so of them are going to fail out, right? So they have 30 open billets, they have 50 people going in, and they're going to expect 20 or so people to either quit or not pass the background or the poly or things along those lines. You have to be in those top 30, because guess what? If 40 people pass everything, they're still stuck with only selecting 30 people at a time, which is why you need to stand out. And that means, having a good work history, having a good, credit history, making your process faster, because what they're going to do is the people that get done the process first, right? Those people right off the bat, minus the ones that they really have stars next to, because they're saying, hey, if this person passed, they're on the top of the recruitment list, we want to hire this person. But for a majority, it's going to be first come. So the people that finish first are going to be the people that get made job offers. And then once those job offers come in, you're going to be able to accept it right there on the spot. Now, sometimes they wait till the very end and they make everyone job offers at the same time. So they'll take their first 30 and they'll make them a job offer. And if some people turn them down or don't accept, then they'll start going into those last 20 or whoever pass and go through that. But let's get back to a background investigator. Background investigator has to say there's, let's say there's 60 applicants, just for a round number here. 60 applicants, 3 background investigators. That means each background investigator has 20 different people that they're handling, right, for this one hiring cycle. If you're not standing out in a positive way with a background investigator right off the start, you're going to be standing out in a negative way, because if they learn your name, it's probably for some reason that you don't want them to, right? And that can just hurt you. So you still want to make yourself as competitive as possible. Just because there's less applicants, it hasn't changed the bottleneck there at the academy and how many people can come in. You take a state like Florida that accepts all types of transfers, right? All types of laterals from almost every other state. They are one of the hardest departments to get hired on as a new hire if you don't self-sponsor. Right now, my recommendation would be, if Florida is where you want to work, I'm not a big fan of self-sponsor, even though I did it because I want you to get paid for what you're doing. But if you were going to do Florida, I would say apply to, Mississippi or Georgia or South Carolina, get on there and then lateral back to Florida in 2 years. And that's the way I would do it. Just so one, I'm getting paid for 6 months and I'm not coming out of pocket and then losing the ability to work. Now, if you have that option, that's great. That's a good way to go. And I can provide more detail on that later. But for most people, to take 6 months off and not be able to provide for family or for their financial obligations, that's difficult to do if you don't have an income. So excuse me, I'd rather you get sponsored through the academy and be paid as a police officer, even though you haven't finished your certification yet. That's where I stand on it. But the competition is still heavy, and in Florida, it's even harder. So things along those lines are things you really have to consider when people say, hey, now's the best time. Now is the best time. And there is less applicants applying. However, that number is starting to go back up definitely now. The downside is that we haven't changed anything about the academy bottleneck. We can only facilitate so many people in the academy, and then that hiring cycle, we hire what we can to max out the academy for however many open billets we have, and then you go from there. And that's just the unfortunate part about it. So make yourself as competitive as possible. Trust me, it is the thing that will change. Well, I should say will have the biggest impact on your success or not. If you want to start and you need to know how to make yourself competitive, down in the description are those two gifts. One is the Getting Started workshop. It's going to walk you through everything, plus those hidden bonuses, so you know where to focus your efforts to make yourself more competitive. Additionally, if you have something specific to you, jump on a free coaching call. I'd love to sit down, talk with you, point you in any direction that I can to give you that competitive edge. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.